1 at the Brain Control Network in Iraq is a terrorist organization that works against America, European countries and theirs. Greetings to you, and this is a brief topic I'll explain to you and I give you conclusive evidence on this. Of course, I am very sure that the result will be that you will only know, and I do not give any hope that any action will be taken. But it is good to know who is shooting you, and this is better. You will not do anything and may accuse parties that have no relationship. I also hope that my voice reaches you. This issue reaches you. This gang does not do any tricks on the internet or piracy technology, blocking the internet, making the page fake, closing the page, etc. is a shame. To that. Now, we will start talking about an issue in which I will not address brain control and the damages that come from it in Iraq from organized killing against the Iraqi people with these weapons, which have committed mass massacres far exceeding what the previous regime did against the Kurdish people by means of chemical weapons. Billions of money was stolen from the money of Iraq in order to establish a system of brain control weapons and factories for these weapons in Iraq, while Iraq has become armies of the poor suffering from poverty, hunger and unemployment. I will not talk about this, but rather I will focus on the relationship of brain control gangs to terrorism. I will prove to you that there is a danger that is absolutely unparalleled, and also that there is a fatal mistake that has been committed in Iraq, the price of which has been paid by all the people of America, European countries, and the friends of these countries. 3 at. Now we start the topic. Look at this smoking video clip, which was a few days ago filmed in Iraq, in central Iraq, in the Diwaniyah governorate in the city of Afaq. Of course, those who specialize in the issue of brain control will know that it is the tricks of controlling the brain, and this is conclusive evidence that proves there's in Iraq, and it is only for outside Iraq. And who may not believe my words about the existence of such a gang in Iraq? Because he does not live in Iraq in order to know the truth. Rather, he may hear that there is something called a state, institutions, etc., while this is not true. For that. First of all, I want to tell you that this gang was the one who attacked the international forces in Iraq throughout Iraq, and they were the ones who were recruiting gangs and contacting everyone who was against America and the countries of Europe and theirs in order to cooperate with them. Also, they were the ones who were inciting the Iraqi people against the forces. International. By spreading theirs in public places in order to spread lies. They were also the ones who were killing the friends of these countries in Iraq. Also, they were the ones who spread corruption and lack of respect for the law. Of course, there is another fact about them, which is that they are a giant intelligence network that was affiliated with the former regime. The former regime was a member of it or whoever finances it, and it is a terrorist intelligence network. It has an extension to Arab countries from countries hostile to America, European countries and theirs. It also has a very strong influence in Europe and even in America, meaning they have terrorist cells affiliated with them. I don't want to talk about what they did, but I'll just give you a little something. These acts of terrorism against Thailand, against Yugoslavia, against Armenia, Serbia, against America, against Russia, against England, against the State of Israel, against Ukraine, against France, against Belgium, against Romania, against India, against Japan, against South Africa, etc. Acts of spreading sedition and acts of damage against the economy of these countries, etc. Of course, what happened in Iraq was the implementation of an international resolution because Iraq invaded Kuwait and considered it its subordinate, and after this, he wanted to continue with such a plan against other countries. There was no other solution except for the liberation of Iraq only. Because the system rejected all decisions. 66 at. International and rejecting all the peaceful initiatives undertaken by many countries, including America, the Soviet Union, England and other countries. Also, no one in all of Iraq was able to open his mouth to say no to the regime. On the contrary, only demonstrations took place in Iraq supporting the issue of the invasion of Kuwait. Of course, something is for sure. The regime gave them orders to do so in order to love it itself only or to challenge public opinion. After all, the important thing is that Iraq was liberated. Here, something happened, which is that the terror network lost one of its symbols, a spirit of terror that was financing terrorism. For this, its work was stopped for a period of 1 year. It is during this period that the coalition countries were the ones leading Iraq temporarily because they were in the process of creating a new state that respects the law and legitimacy. This period, which is only 1 year, was like the dream that every person would have liked. Iraq should be a new country and a friend to Europe and America. A country that has no reason for foreign and does not support terrorism. Money is also spent on the people and not supporting terrorism or supporting everyone who publishes a cartoon against America and even against Europe. Or to support strife in South Africa or elsewhere. Of course, this terrorist network has returned to work in Iraq, but in the form of gangs. The important thing is that I will completely matter. It is something that I consider a disaster in every sense of the word. And it is the Treason side that gave the leader of this terrorist network in Iraq the authorization to open a branch for it, and he was made a prophet. I do not know how this happened. But this side, I consider, is the one who bears full responsibility for the friends. Sevnat, America and the countries of Europe who were also killed. Everything that happened in America, the countries of Europe, and the friends of these countries. Now I will give you evidence indicating that a failure has occurred. I'll take an example in India. Also there is the same game, the same organization and exactly the same style. Also, there are victims of choice and there is exploited. Here is another observation, which is that the gang in Iraq is exploiting the Bible Church, and this is its leader, who is an intelligence officer and has made himself a prophet in the Bible Church. Also in India a church was used as a catch. Of course, there is a big difference between India and Iraq. These gangs in India are just terrorist cells and do not rule India and they do evil, hide themselves and flee. While in Iraq the situation is completely different. This gang is the one who rules Iraq. We also see the story of a person who fled China to Canada, but there were also cells belonging to this gang that continued to pursue him there. But of course also these cells have nothing to do with the government, the army or the police. Here we notice that they are one network, they only have one goals and a world of their own. Quite different from what we know. For example, we all know that the countries of Europe and America are his brother, and the three of theirs. But this terrorist network is considered one of the enemies and considers them as theirs. I mean, what happened in Canada is that the state gave the right of political asylum to the citizen who fled from China. But the cells of this network did not recognize the Canadian government's decision to meet by the decision of the threat of terrorism in Iraq. Now ask. ATAT, question for you. How can terrorism be a partner in an organization? Also, if we assume that they are an organization similar to the Red Cross, and they are everywhere. But the vacuum of Iraq is terrorism. They were the ones who were striking the coalition countries in Iraq. Although they all knew this, the Iraq branch continued to operate and still uses services. It also went to them even in Europe and America, and it was alleged that it was attacking the forces of those countries in Iraq and killing theirs in Iraq. Of course, as long as action is taken, for example closing the entire Iraq branch and cancelling any accreditation that was given. But they kept going. The same as they are. Hear the alarm should. And consider the existence of this organization. Which has its own world and goals that differ, and it seeks harm. The evidence that exposed this organization is the Iraq branch. A very fatal mistake, the Iraq branch is terrorism. And this gang is nothing but a terrorist intelligence network. 9. Of course, they are something like a family. Perhaps this is also a normal thing. I noticed that many of those who say they are victims are brain control. I noticed that they were the ones who made a mistake, meaning they were the ones who belonged to those in the church and some of them believed that it had become something important or special, or that the voice of God has become with him. After a while, he discovered that it was a lie or that he organized them, and he thought that he would benefit from them with something, and then he knew that he had become like a donkey in a carrot. They are victims, especially those who have no work except to accuse the army and security forces in America and the countries of Europe. Or to throw nails at what happened to them. These are either members of the same gang claiming to be victims, or they are very foolish and stupid noises. I also noticed some victims who were victims because they did not read the gang laws or the laws of belonging to the gang. These laws are something unknown, are completely different from the laws of any other organization. For example, this gang considers food and drink to belong to them, housing, or taking something from them, or some money or clothes. Also there are things that we consider very normal, which is that someone asks you where to go or where do you live, how old are you, or what is your academic achievement, or do you have a salary, or you married, or asked about your nationality, etc., are very normal matters, but unfortunately they are laws that we consider. 10. That the gang belongs to them here means the victim who says that he does not know anything about them or does not work with them or is not affiliated with them and they are his enemy. Here he will become a liar and the gang will claim that he is one of its members and he has a record with them or works for them. Even the brain control segment that was done planting it on it is normal. They plant this on all of theirs that work with them. And each one has its own number. Another thing is that the victim's family and friends will be brought with the gang. They also make talking to them or going to them is their shun as well. Here they notice that the victim submits complaints everywhere, but the gang also defends itself and says that he is the one who comes to them. Meaning they explain that the victim remains dwelling with his family and as if he is staying with the gang also when he eats or drinks from them or takes something also when he hears theirs or sees them also that he thinks about them when he calls his friends or people he knows etc. And all this lies will make the victim like someone who went to a cage full of poisonous snakes and lived in it. Because he lived in such a place off to him to complain and complain. Of course, I do not want to talk about this issue, but I say this family organization made a very fatal mistake. It is that they brought a terrorist demon from Iraq and made him a brother to them. He works with these same laws in Iraq and has also been given the same powers. Completely. Of course, this family is not sure. 11. About the identity of this devil, who entered the Bible synagogue in Iraq and became their Rav, I approved this family. Which may be something that is not bad at all, or they just have a religious cause. But they fell in the fatal mistake. This person to whom they were given authorization to open a branch from in Iraq is an intelligence officer and he is the leader of a terrorist network and he is the one who attacked the international forces in Iraq and he is the one who killed and continues to kill all the friends of European and American countries and theirs. Of course, I do not know how they chose such a demon, or whether he deceived them because he became a new person after he entered Christianity in the Bible Church, meaning give him intercession for everything he did against the international forces. Of course, first of all, he is a liar, as he has not changed at all. Rather, he exploited such an organization or his family to make it a cover for him as well, in order to make them bridges in order to reach the countries of Europe and America and achieve the goals of evil. The unfortunate thing is that this organization is something like a close-knit family. Understand, even if one of them made a mistake, the rest will support this and this is similar to what happened when a person fled from China to escape to Canada. The members of this organization supported theirs in China and went off to the victim. Naughty things happen with the Iraq branch. It is a branch of terrorism, and this branch is the one that rules Iraq and has been recruiting gangs against European and American countries and theirs. As for this organization, it supports this. So they are the ones who brought an enemy and made him among them and gave him powers like them. Rather, the other catastrophe is that this Satan became the manager over them and made himself a prophet over them and started giving instructions all against America and the countries of Europe. Indeed. 12. At in the countries of Europe and America and theirs. I mean, the matter was a mere ritual performed by one of the churches only. But the issue was completely different after the Iraq branch was opened. These people brought terror and made it there after this demon in Iraq pretended to be a Christian, and after that, he became the manager of them. After this organization turned into evil against America, the European countries, and theirs. Because of the orders of this devil from Iraq, after this, the number of victims at the brain control methods increased, and cases of the formation of Christianity appeared. I also noticed that some of the victims began to speak badly against the army and security forces. I also noticed very unfortunate things. It is that some accuse there are other people, and this means planting the seeds of hatred among the people of these countries. And the attempt to make confidence and respect for the law does not exist. The problem is that this organization is a network. I mean, it takes orders. I mean, for example, the group that pursued the person who fled China did not hear anything about him. Rather, others came to them to pursue him. Notice the fuss. Which is that the state of Canada gave him the right to political asylum, while the group in Canada does not recognize the state, nor the army or security. And they considered this citizen their deity. Although he fled because of injustice. So it became when that the group that was hitting the Canadian army in Iraq. You go to Canada, and those in Canada you consider them their theirs. Although they are terrorism and they were hitting the Canadian army in Iraq. Of course, all this crooked situation because the devil in Iraq has become the manager of them. 14. Here I have something to say, which is that I do not want to talk about any religious side or discuss the issue of the victims of choice. But I see an organization present in the brotherly countries America, the countries of Europe and theirs, and it has a branch in Iraq, and this branch is terrorism, and it is he who was attacking the international forces in Iraq. After that, this branch became the one leading Iraq and changed everything and made the security forces in Iraq its subordinate. It is not new because the former regime's security, intelligence and intelligence forces were terrorism. Here the question arises. Which is how a branch of this organization in Canada can consider the Iraq branch like a brother to it. Is a new religion made up of groups that want to overthrow Europe and America. And they're in Iraq. I mean, the Iraq branch works completely with the same laws with them in the same way, but it is terrorism. Here, we have a catastrophic image, which is an organization located in the brotherly countries of Europe and America, and this has influence, immunity, or influence, but it fell into the hands of terrorism in Iraq that was able to deceive them, and he exploited Christianity and claimed to be Christian while they are a network of terror. After this the disaster increased to become that terrorism in Iraq did not become a part of it, but rather became its director. Here, terrorism has a cover and bridges to cross over it. Rather, all branches of this organization have become a dispersal, meaning it is being fully exploited. There is another thing, which is that this organization has secrets or privileges, all of which have come under the control of terrorism, and it is being learned by them. I mean, the secret fell into the hands of terrorism. That's why I also know it. Operations 16. Attitude the muscles that terrorism exerted when it struck France, which is absolutely unusual. France is not an ordinary country, but one of the powerful countries. But it could not do anything at all, and the reason is the influence of the organization that fell into the hands of terrorism in Iraq. And as I told you that the system of this organization is very strange. They, for example, in Canada do not have any loyalty whatsoever to the state of Canada and do not recognize any agreements or the interest of the state of Canada. Even if they claim that they are with the law or a volunteer security organization and affix itself to security. But as soon as orders come to them from their help, they turn into an enemy of Canada. Of course, this is also what happened in the attacks against America and against Russia, France, Belgium, England, the State of Israel, and many European countries, and the reason is that their help is not at all from these countries. Rather, only terrorism in Iraq is the one who revealed the secret and became the director of them. Of course, this organization is not the army in America and countries. Europe and the friends of these countries, and not any security apparatus. But it only affixes itself, and it is funny that they say that they are looking for terrorism when they are terrorism. Here we have a Hind movie story, completely repeated, and the antivirus has become a virus. This was due to a very fatal mistake, which was opening a branch from in Iraq. Of course, no one from the brotherly countries in America and the countries of Europe and theirs is responsible for this organization at all. In order to be able to address such a mistake or to cancel this organization or carry out reforms in it. I mean, for example, the Iraq branch is cancelled because it is terrorism. I mean, as I said, this organization does not have any 17 out in these countries, not with the security forces and the army. Also, as I said, theirs do not care about the interests of these countries. I mean, the branch in America, Russia, Israel, Canada, India, England, etc. These branches have no loyalty to the homeland, the economy of these countries, or theirs. Rather, the religion that they claim to walk in has become only a cover. Terrorism in Iraq is the manager of them, and the evidence is that the Canada branch, for example, will receive the members of the Iraq branch who are the ones who hit the Brothers Army in Canada in Iraq. This means that these elements are received and are dealt with like his brother to them, while the wounded are from the Iraq Canadian Army. You see them as enemies. Personally, I consider this organization an opportunity for terrorism to do evil against Europe and America. Thus, the voice of God became nothing but the voice of evil only. And Judas, who betrayed Christ, returned to treachery again while he was taking advantage of Christianity. It means that there are no people with God in America, European countries, and they're theirs. In order to give their to a terrorist demon in Iraq. On the contrary, there are thousands of clerics in these countries, but I do not know what to say. Is it bad luck? Or what? They put the necks of the people of America and the countries of Europe and Turks under the mercy of terrorism only in Iraq that made itself the voice of God. Every day he invents something in order to cause harm, sow discord, hatred and bring down the law. In these countries, terrorism has also become able to enter these countries whenever it wants. And control it. Also drops every character who loves the homeland. 19. As for the reality of the situation in Iraq, it is simply something similar to the proverb that says give the cat a piece of meat like his safety, asking to keep it until she returns. The same game in Iraq. It is up to the international forces left it. The terrorist network, which uses brain control weapons and is led by an intelligence officer from the days of the former regime, took control of the terrorist network. This terrorist network made itself an organization of parties. I mean, democracy ended in Iraq as soon as the international forces left and became the leader of Iraq. He is a demon much worse than the previous regime, and he is a formidable enemy against America and the countries of Europe. The whole of Iraq has become something completely similar to the former Ba'ath Party and how it was the only authority in Iraq, and then the multi-party lie in Iraq was invented and it was just a trap for those who are against the regime only. Because all the parties that were opened were led by intelligence officers affiliated with the regime. The same thing was repeated, but with a slight difference, which is that Satan and his network hide themselves. We also note that Iraq's policy has not changed for years, and Iraq has become an enemy state for America and the countries of Europe, and the people's stool on money has become. This is because the so-called party organization is led by a terrorist demon. Of course, I do not have any organization at all in Iraq. Of course, I personally had many Iraqis dreaming that something will change when the governments in Iraq change and Iraq becomes a friendly country. Countries of Europe, but the same thing does not change. The question is clear, and it is this devil, a leader of a group of parties, as he is a despicable terrorist.